I kindly invite all party leaders and members of the committee to participate in that meeting. Presentation of papers. I present the fifth installment, part 9 of the report of the Auditor General for the financial year 2019. Fifth installment, part 8 and 6th installment, parts 16, 17, 18, 19 and 20 of the report of the Auditor General for the financial year 2020, and first installment, parts 2 and 3 and fourth installment, parts 4 and 5 of the report of the Auditor General for the financial year 2021 in terms of section 154 of the Constitution of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Honorable Leader of the House, I move that the report be printed. I present the 8th installment, part 10 of the performance report of the Auditor General on fulfillment and utilization of building requirements for the government institutions in terms of Article 154 within bracket 6 of the Constitution of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Honorable Leader of the House, I move that the report be printed. I present the 11th volume 2 of the triennial report of the Auditor General on state banks in terms of section 14 of the National Audit Act number 19 of 2018 and 11th volume 9 of the triennial report of the Auditor General on public companies in terms of section 14 of the National Audit Act number 19 of 2018 received to the National Audit Office in terms of Article 154 within bracket 6 of the Constitution of the Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka. Honorable Leader of the House, I move that the report be printed. Presentation of papers. Honorable Prime Minister and Minister of Public Administration, Home Affairs, Provincial Councils and Local Government. Honorable Speaker, I present the annual reports of the Information and Communication Technology Agency of Sri Lanka for the years 2016, 2017 and 2018. I move that these reports be referred to the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Technology. I present the annual report of the Ranavira Authority for the year 2021. I move that this report be referred to the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Defence. Honorable Minister of Agriculture. Honorable Speaker, I present the annual performance report of the Department of Animal Protection and Health for the year 2021. Honorable Minister of Tourism and Lands. Honorable Speaker, I present the annual report of the Sri Lanka Institute of Tourism and Hotel Management for the year 2020. I move that this report be referred to the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Tourism and Lands. Honorable Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment. Honorable Speaker, I present the annual report of the Shrama Vasana Fund for the year 2018. I move that this report be referred to the Ministerial Consultative Committee on Labour and Foreign Employment. Presentation of petitions. Honorable Ajit Rajapaksa. Honorable Ajit Rajapaksa. Honorable Speaker, I present the petition received from Mr. M.K. Jayaratna of Homagama. Honorable Vasudeva Nayakara. Honorable Speaker, I present the petition received from Mr. K.P.E. Pereira of Panadura. Honorable Chandima Veerakodi. Honorable Sujit Sanjay Pereira. Honorable Speaker, I present the petition received from Mr. Hadra Singh of Dedigam. Honorable Pradeep Undugoda. Honorable Speaker, I present the petition received from Mr. W.P. Vimalsen of Maharagan. Honorable Upul Mahendra Rajapaksa. Petitions stand referred to the Committee on Public Petitions. Questions for oral answers? As per the decision taken at the party leaders meeting on the 17th of this month, all questions will be referred to some other day. Petition? Yes, Honourable Member, Honourable Speaker. We want to respect you for convening a party leaders meeting in relation to the oral questions. There were some new questions to be submitted to Parliament after the prorogation. I submitted my questions, but they have not been included. But some members have given their old questions, and those old questions appear in the order paper. But I amended my questions because this is a new government and a new president is there. So now that it is the old questions that are getting delayed, the old questions have appeared in the order book. I think there is an unfair treatment towards me. We always uphold the tradition of Parliament, and it is according to the tradition of the Parliament that we always behave. But some officials of Parliament, on their friendly associations with members, have included some questions. Honorable Minister of Justice and Prison Reforms. Honorable Speaker, I present second reading tomorrow. Number 2, Honorable Leader of the House. I move item number 2, sir. House agrees. Number 3, Leader. I move number 3, sir. House agrees. Number 4, I move number 4, sir. House agrees. Number 4, number 5, I move number 5, sir. Number 6, Honorable Leader of the House, I move number 6, sir. House agrees. Number 7, Honorable Leader of the House, I move, sir, number 7. House agrees. Words of condolence. Honorable Prime Minister.
Her Majesty the Queen of Elizabeth, vote of condolence in the passing away of the Queen. I move that this Parliament resolves that Parliament, Democratic Socialist Republic of Sri Lanka, pays his deepest sympathies to and conveys to His Majesty King Charles III and the royal family, the people of Great Britain, on the demand of world's immensely respected Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II. President.
Honorable President.
Speaker, amongst all the letters of congratulation I received on becoming President, the one that was sent by Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II was special. It would have been, if not her last letter of congratulation, one of her last letters of congratulation. Her Majesty has been very frail after the death of her husband, His Highness Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. But no one expected a sudden passing away like this. 2 days before her death, we saw Her Majesty on television with her outgoing Prime Minister and the incoming Prime Minister. She looked a bit exhausted, but anyway, anyone who spends half a day with outgoing Prime Minister Boris Johnson and the incoming Prime Minister Liz Truss would have been exhausted, so that was nothing special. And then we heard of her passing away. The ceremonies are all over. But we have to grapple with the issue, what did Queen Elizabeth II mean to us, to Sri Lanka, the United Kingdom, to the Commonwealth and to the world. As Queen of Ceylon, her reign signified the transformation of our country from Ceylon to Sri Lanka. The great political upheaval started under her. The 1956 election victory, the emergence of the ethnic issue, the coming of the free education generation, the state control of the economy, 2 coup d'etats against the governments, the start of the armed uprisings in the south. She is a person, Her Majesty, is a staunch Christian and held to her belief as the defender of the Anglican faith. But as Queen of Ceylon, she also upheld the commitment to safeguard Buddhism under the Kandyan Convention of 1815. In fact, a little known item is that Her Majesty presided over the Buddha Jayanti 2500 celebrations as the head of Ceylon, together with the kings of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, and the president of Burma, as Myanmar was then known. So, at the end of it, she also, when her term came to an end and we became a republic, or there was also 2 issues that have been left behind, which has still not been unresolved. The conversion from a dominion of Ceylon into the unitary state of Sri Lanka, Republic of Sri Lanka, was the emergence of the ethnic issues which led in turn to uprisings, and still the last part of it has to be resolved. Secondly, it was an issue that was raised, if we want a figurehead, why don't we have the Queen? Why do you need a figurehead president? I remember the late Mr. Siriwardana, editor of the Atta, wrote editorial that we need not become a republic to become a socialist country. And then there was the issue that was raised by the then leader of the opposition, Honorable J.R. Jayawardena, supported by his chief whip Ranasinghe Premadasa, as to why we need a figurehead president. If we are to have a president, we should have an executive presidency on the model of France. Now this is also still unresolved question. Many have pledged and won elections to abolish it, but no one has done it. But in a sense, she represented not only the transformation of Sri Lanka, but also the transformation in the rest of the world. The transfer of power from West to Asia and Africa. The dismantling of the British Empire. And the UK joined Europe, then they have left Europe and is now redefining its role as global Britain. Queen Elizabeth II was different. From head of the British colonies, she became head of the Commonwealth of Nations. The transformation which represents her greatest success, bringing together the West and the rest. This Commonwealth of Nations saw some of the most outstanding leaders of our time get together with Her Majesty the Queen. Sir Winston Churchill, Dame Margaret Thatcher, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, Sir Robert Menzies, Pierre Trudeau, Lester Pearson, Nelson Mandela, Kenyatta, Kenneth Kaunda, Nyerere, Nkrumah, Lee Kuan Yew, and Tunku Abdul Rahman were amongst others. In this transformation, Queen Elizabeth II became to us a symbol of stability, a symbol of adaptability. No other queen would have jumped off a helicopter with James Bond, and a symbol of duty. As a global icon, she outranked the UK, a nation which has now to chart its fortune without its greatest soft power asset, Queen Elizabeth, who was 100 times more powerful than the aircraft carrier named after her. It is to pay our respect to this global icon, which took many of us to the funeral service in Westminster Abbey. It was a very moving funeral service. The most poignant moment began when all of us in the Abbey, Christian or non-Christian, joined in to sing her favorite hymn, "The Lord is my shepherd." Goodness and mercy all my life shall surely follow me, and in the God's house forevermore my dwelling place shall be. Queen Elizabeth II is no more. Therefore I request, Honourable Speaker, and I am supporting the motion moved by the Honourable Prime Minister, to convey to His Majesty King Charles III and members of the royal family our condolences. I conclude this tribute to Queen Elizabeth II of Ceylon, the last of our royal line, which began with King Vijaya, with these verse: Anikka vatta sankarang upadavaya dhammino upaditva nirunjantu te some people suko. Impermanent are formations subject to rise and fall. Having risen they cease, they are subsiding is bliss. Thank you.
Honourable Speaker, in joining the resolution of the vote of condolence, memory of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II has certainly saddened the people of Sri Lanka, people of the Great Britain and across the world. While sharing our sincere grief, the people of Sri Lanka offer our sincere gratitude for the remarkable life in service of faith and duty. We recognize this a time of profound personal loss for the British royal family, who are mourning a beloved mother, grandmother and a great-grandmother. The Queen visited our shores on 3 occasions, mentioned by His Excellency the President. First time as a princess with Prince Philip on their honeymoon, and 2 other occasions later during the course of her 7-decade reign as Queen. She touched the people of Sri Lanka with sympathy and kindness whenever our people were afflicted by tragedy and disaster. Queen Elizabeth II was also head of the Commonwealth, and today Sri Lanka Parliament joins together with the extended Commonwealth Parliaments in sorrow and mourning of her loss. Mentioned by the President of Sri Lanka in presence paid his last respect to the Queen's final journey. And on September 18, Sri Lanka declared an official state of mourning in remembrance. At this time, on behalf of Parliament and all Sri Lankans, we convey our deepest condolences to the new King, the royal family and the people of Britain. Like his mother before him, the King has a deep and lasting connection to Sri Lanka, a love of beautiful country and hopefully a deep affection towards our people. May the Queen Elizabeth II rest in peace and achieve the supreme bliss of Nirvana. Thank you.
विपक्ष नायकत्व.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable President, Members of Parliament, we are all gathered here today to pay our tribute to Britain's longest reigning monarch, the late Queen Elizabeth II. She was the United Kingdom's longest reigning monarch and one of the longest reigning monarchs in all of recorded history. We pay tribute to Her Majesty not just for the longevity of her reign, not simply for the stability that she brought to her subjects and to her nation, not just for her graciousness and stature. Of course, we remember her for all these reasons, but also we recognize and acknowledge her unyielding passion for duty and her uncompromising dedication to the service of the United Kingdom and the monarchy. The tributes that have thus far been made in this chamber and beyond, from the White House in the United States to the parliaments of the Commonwealth of Nations, to the people across Great Britain, are undeniable testaments to the love the people had for their Queen, a reflection of the adoration and respect she inspired, thus an ultimate reflection of Her Majesty's own loyalty to the nation and the crown. This chamber also pays its respects to Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth II on account of our status as a Commonwealth nation, as a nation state that is a member of the global community of nations, but also as a special acknowledgement of our shared history with the United Kingdom and its people. Whatever our political differences and history of confrontation that resulted from the periods of colonization, we come together to acknowledge the grief. We understand that the people of Great Britain are mourning, and we do respect that in all sincerity. This chamber, our institutions, our laws, some of our political customs and political structures have all evolved from our British colonial past and beyond. As a former colony, we cannot deny a colonial hangover. This is a reality and should never be ignored nor forgotten. The oppression of peoples around the world at the hands of British imperialism is widely acknowledged. Those debates around republicanism within the UK and around the Commonwealth will only grow with the passing of Queen Elizabeth II. This in itself is a testament and a tribute to her reign and to her very being. While these debates may continue, and while I respect all those that have divergent opinions on the British monarch and its history of imperialism, I also acknowledge that the freedoms we possess to debate, to disagree, are foundational to the story of human emancipation. However, as human beings, we must all respect the grief of millions of people around the world, and particularly in the United Kingdom. Given Sri Lanka's history is itself forever intertwined with the history of the United Kingdom. At this particular juncture, please permit me to reflect on the reign of Queen Elizabeth II. We are all aware that the United Kingdom is a parliamentary constitutional monarchy. This means that despite all the pomp and pageantry surrounding the royal family, while the Queen would wear the crown, while King Charles III now wears the imperial crown, political power is wielded by others, usually far removed from the royal family. In many ways, that is what has ensured the survival of the British monarchy. Its distance to the power center, as well as its proximity to the nation's heart. Whatever else Queen Elizabeth II is remembered for, she will not be remembered for her political beliefs. She will never be defined by political ideology. For someone that existed as a head of state for over 70 years, we must acknowledge that this is an extraordinary achievement. To be perceived as politically neutral throughout a 70-year period defined by social and economic upheaval, revolution, war, and technological advancement, the real legacy of Queen Elizabeth II was that she always found herself above the fray. Rarely would she react or respond without considerable measure. She remained as disciplined a public servant as there has ever been, as perhaps there ever will be. Do remember that the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom must update the Queen once a week with a private face-to-face audience. Her late Majesty had these weekly appointments with 14 different Prime Ministers over a 70-year period. While Queen Elizabeth II was in many ways a very young queen during her coronation, she had already had many years of preparation for her duties. One of the enduring personality traits confirmed by all those close to her was her sense of obligation to duty and service. Further evidence of this lies in her preparation for her meetings with prime ministers, her questions to them, her natural curiosity about the world beyond her own inner circle. We are all well aware that Sir Winston Churchill was her first prime minister. Prime Minister Churchill was also a friend of her father, George VI. There are stories of how Prime Minister Churchill was initially unsure about how a young queen would manage the British Empire and the prevailing pressures on the crown. I recall the footage of how Sir Winston Churchill joined the royal family, including King George VI and the future Queen Elizabeth II, on the royal balcony, waving to millions after the end of the World War II on the 8th of May 1945. Queen Elizabeth II was said to have been extremely impressed, even beguiled by the relationship her father, the king, had with his subjects, the love and the adoration they had for him. This was in the years following the Blitz on London, when many buildings in the city were bombed, a perilous moment for the United Kingdom, a moment of existential threat was overcome with the dual powers of the government of the United Kingdom and its royal family, in whose name the army of the United Kingdom entered the battlefield. It's a solemn relationship. On her 21st birthday, the future queen made her own solemn vow to her people. Quote, "I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service." I want to remind this chamber that Queen Elizabeth II was on royal duties abroad in Kenya when King George VI passed away. She was whisked away from her duties to a lifetime of service. There were no questions asked. She would henceforth sacrifice herself and her family for the betterment of the crown. Queen Elizabeth waited for a year for her own coronation out of respect for her father, the late King George VI. When we recall the late Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill and his relationship with the late Queen Elizabeth II, we should also note that there was some divergence between the Queen and her Prime Minister during the post-war period and about Britain's place in the world. We must remember that Sir Winston Churchill fought many wars for the British Empire. He was a strong supporter of retaining Britain's global supremacy in the face of a trend towards decolonization and proliferation of independence movements and the dissolution of the British Empire. He differed from the young Queen Elizabeth with regard to this. The Queen preferred a loose confederation of states which would come to be known as the Commonwealth. In fact, a very young Queen Elizabeth II went on a much publicized world tour, visiting many nations that would later become members of the Commonwealth. A world tour that was against the advice of her Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. From such tours began her reign as Britain's most important diplomat. Queen Elizabeth II would become United Kingdom's most experienced diplomat, experience that no other person had ever had, not before and certainly not since. When we talk about her relationship with prime ministers, we must remind ourselves that when the Labour leader Harold Wilson became the Prime Minister in 1964, there was much trepidation that the famous lefty would disrupt the formalities between the Crown and the government. This was a time of social and economic upheaval and unrest, with Britain undergoing economic hardships. There was widespread dissatisfaction with the conservative establishment of the time, which led to the rise of the Labour Party under Harold Wilson, who was himself an avid supporter of unions and the labour movements of the day. The 1960s were also a period of counterculture and of rebellion against tradition, all of which were a threat to the monarchy. It has been noted that the Queen's experiences with the Prime Ministers had always revolved around the perspectives from the conservative side of the political aisle. The premiership of Mr. Wilson would in fact be the first time that Queen Elizabeth II would be given the perspective from a different side of the political aisle. It is said that she cherished her briefings with Harold Wilson, that her natural curiosity would lead to many questions regarding the labour struggle and unions being put to the Prime Minister. Prime Minister Wilson, for his part, was always ready to treat the Queen as his equal, someone to learn from as well as to educate. Great Britain faced many challenges with revolts against the Wilson government from the unions, the pressure from the coal and steel industries, while trade with former colonies had broken down. It is said that her audiences with Harold Wilson would last longer and longer with each passing week, and that she would often ask him to stay for longer than was required. Harold Wilson was said to have explained to the Queen the issues facing the working classes in a manner that previous prime ministers have seldom cared to. He shared the experiences of the unions with Her late Majesty. Her late Majesty even began inviting Prime Minister Wilson to stay for drinks after the audience officially ended, serving brandy and gin, breaking many decades of tradition in the process. There is even a story about Prime Minister Wilson being invited to Balmoral Castle in Scotland for a traditional barbecue, which is cooked by the Duke of Edinburgh and the Queen, does the washing up herself. Queen Elizabeth II had a far less congenial relationship with Iron Lady Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, a politician that was famous for tough talking with a confrontational style and was a complete opposite of the Queen, who was always required to steer clear of confrontation. I must bring to the attention of the Chamber that during the Thatcher era, there was rising inequality due to economic issues. Unemployment was high. Social unrest was threatening to spill over. Thatcher would confront the unrest with force, something the Queen was said to have been most uncomfortable with. Another point to note is that while under Prime Minister Thatcher, Britain took a hands-off approach on the issue of apartheid in South Africa, where her government even effectively slowed down the imposition of sanctions on the apartheid government of the time. Queen Elizabeth, against the advice of Prime Minister Thatcher, travelled to a meeting of Commonwealth heads of state, supporting the claims of anti-apartheid agitations in South Africa. Despite her differences with Prime Minister Thatcher, Queen Elizabeth was unhappy at the treatment meted out to Prime Minister Thatcher towards the end of her premiership. This was the mark of a person that was able to understand the human element, even in the power games of the political arena. I want to impress upon the Chamber the notion of the Queen, or in this case a king, as a sovereign of the people. The idea that one person can represent a definitive authority within a hierarchy. There is a certain romanticism to this idea. It is worth pursuing to understand the role of the monarch and how well Queen Elizabeth II discharged the duties of her role so diligently over a 70-year period. The tradition of the Prime Minister meeting the monarch once a week is part of this notion of the sovereign. Just consider that the Prime Minister, with all the lawful constitutional powerful powers, must diligently, without fail, every week, week in, week out, pay a visit to the monarch, literally bow before the sovereign and update them on the happenings of government, while also taking advice from the monarch on any matter which they see fit. This tradition of a Prime Minister bowing before the monarch is a manifestation of the ideal that the monarch represents something bigger than the office of the Prime Minister, something beyond the powers of government. The sovereign is another representation of the will of the people, of the stakeholders of the wider state. As the head of state, the monarch must be respected. That respect is what is cloaked in the romanticism of the sovereign. Mr. Speaker, at this particular juncture, I would like to pay our tribute and our respect to the royal family, Her Majesty the Queen, the extended family, to the people of Britain, express our condolences and our deepest sympathies on the demise of Her late Majesty. Her late Majesty was a symbol of stability, the mother of the nation, the head of state, and the queen of their hearts. May she rest in peace.
Honorable Chief Government Whip. Honorable Chief Government Whip. Honorable Chief Opposition Whip. Honorable Mahinda Rajapaksa.
Mr. Speaker, we believe that the demise of Queen Elizabeth is an end of an era. She headed the empire of unsetting sun. She must have witnessed how the countries changed as well as when the socialist camp was going ahead, and she must have witnessed the Cold War between the socialist and the capitalist world. Again, they saw the division and unison between within countries. Whichever political transformations took place in the world, she was able to say goodbye to the world while still being in the reputed position with majesty. Now, this is a period when the whole world is looking at Britain. The eyes of the people of the world were cast on England as well as her funeral. Like in the case of the marriage of Prince Charles, Prince of Wales, this funeral also was something which was watched by the whole world. It is difficult for a monarch to handle the affairs of the state. One has to make a historic sacrifice, which she did. It has now all the personal things in her life had to be given up. Therefore, she can be called a straightforward and virtuous queen who conducted herself in a proper manner. Royalty may have different interpretations, but royalty should maintain tradition. The person who protects tradition becomes a royal. So the royalhood of the royal family protected a deep ingrained tradition. Therefore, Queen Elizabeth II set an example. She became a role model in representing tradition. We should remember how she handled many of the affairs, including the Second World War. They were able to overcome many challenges because of the tradition they had, because of the love towards the motherland. They had I trust that the people of Britain have something which goes beyond the ordinary vicissitudes of life. They respected tradition with a deep devotion. Although they were pioneers of freedom and democracy, they did not set aside traditions or laughed at it. As a result, they have been able to stand before the world strongly, and the British royal family made a huge contribution towards that. For over the royal there's a saying that the monarch does not err. So Queen Elizabeth II substantiated it throughout her life. It created in the minds of people the spirit that British monarch and Britain are now two entities but one. Therefore, we should pay our respects to her. Commonwealth Conference was a constant event, and she was instrumental in making it a perpetual one. She visited Sri Lanka twice. She went to picturesque places, places of historic importance, places of religious importance, etc. And her conduct in such places fitted very well with royalty, which we can call graces. That's not forgotten by the people of this country. Their traditions, customs, history are the things which are respected. Whenever she came to Sri Lanka, she respected our country, accorded the respect to our country in a proper manner. World underwent many transformations, but people's love towards her did not shift. She left a very good message in her departure. The message was, one should respect one's own nation and its customs and traditions, while at the same time they should respect those of others, other countries. I wish her nirvana. Thank you.
Honorable Vijayadasa Rajapaksa. Honorable Jayantaveer Singh.
Honorable Speaker, Honorable Members of Parliament, and all those present. First, I wish to thank the Honorable Speaker for allocating time for me to extend my condolences on the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. To describe Her Majesty's reign as a glorious, exemplary, and splendiferous reign is hardly a superlative description, in that Her Majesty has left a record of a reign that would be a hard act to follow for all future successors. She ascended the throne in 1952 on the demise of her late great father, King George VI. Today, one has to ask, why this universal outpouring of sorrow and admiration? What is the secret of that? It is because of an unspoken feeling that Her Majesty's death signifies the end of an era, and that the world would never see the like again. In her period of being queen, which spanned 70 meaningful long years, she has seen 15 prime ministers, a staggering record. 16 prime ministers, had weekly meetings with them, week after week, and with which Prime Minister did she start the inimitable great Sir Winston Churchill. From 1952 onwards, not only did she interact with 15 prime ministers, the last being Liz Truss, who was sworn in by Her Majesty probably a few days before her death, starting from the legendary Sir Winston Churchill. Moreover, she had seen the periods of government of 14 US presidents. No mean record at that. 14 US presidents. The only president she missed was Lyndon Johnson. Barring Lyndon Johnson, she interacted successfully with 14 US presidents. The longest reigning monarch in British history, a staggering reign of 70 long years, better say 70 glorious years in the service of her country and the Commonwealth. Her devotion to duty was legendary. She never uttered a word which she later had to regret or withdraw. Never. All her prime ministers had constantly intoned that from her, during those weekly meetings, they were able to garner a lot of important issues and ideas. And all the prime ministers, starting from Winston Churchill, greatly appreciated the advice that she always proffered in a very independent, nevertheless, in the most useful manner for prime ministers to observe in the future. We all know that she came to the throne. She was certainly not born in straight line to the throne, but fortuitously came to the throne because of the very well known abdication crisis. Had it not been for that, we would never have seen this legendary queen. That abdication crisis, which caused her father's brother to leave the throne in order to, as he said, to marry the woman I love, Mrs. Simpson. And then, after the abdication of her uncle, father's older brother, her own father became the king and thus paved the way for this remarkable queen and her remarkable reign. From a very young age, virtually from childhood on to adolescence, Her late Majesty experienced first the Second World War, the horrors of the Second World War, and in that period was trained by her late father in the greatest constitutional principles which she followed for the rest of her life. When she came to the throne, they had just got over what was known as the Blitz, the day in, day out, night after night bombings of London and the suburbs. In that period, she saw her own house, her father's house, Buckingham Palace, being bombed. And it was at that point that there were suggestions that the royal family should evacuate England and go and live, for the safety of the family and the children, that they should go to an independent country and live there. When that suggestion was made, the reply given by Her Majesty's late mother Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, is worthwhile to remember. When they were asked whether they are going to leave England for the safety of the family and children, this is what Her late Majesty's mother, the late Queen Mary, said. She said, "The children will never leave without me. I will never leave without the king. And the king, of course, will never leave." These words her subjects never forgot, either during the war or thereafter. That was the type of training she had. Serve the country, serve the people, serve the Commonwealth. Then, during the war, she served in the Auxiliary Territorial Service, which was known as ATS. And that was not merely a small appointment just to kid the people. Certainly not. In that service, which was known as ATS, during the war, 335 ATS women were killed. 335 of those people lost their lives. It is in such a regiment that Her late Majesty served as a young adolescent. Thus she became the first member of the royal family to be an active duty member of British Armed Services. She celebrated her Silver Jubilee in 1977, Golden Jubilee in 2002, and the Platinum Jubilee in 2022. The first to do so in the history of Britain. Probably may be the only one to do so in the future as well. Her Majesty graced this country twice. First in 1954 and then in the 1980s. She was married for 73 years and she was fortunate to have as her helpmate an equally dutiful husband and also such dutiful children. Her son Charles III, who now succeeds her, is no stranger to Sri Lanka. Today the Commonwealth flourishes because of the guidance she gave for 70 years. Let us at this point, while passing our condolences for the late Queen, extend our good wishes to King Charles III and hope that he would be an equally remarkable and meaningful monarch. There is one thing I want to say here, how Her late Majesty always went on with the times, changed her stance with the times to keep in touch with the changing times. That is, when a number of years ago, when there was a public clamor that the Queen should pay taxes, she then realized that it was a time for even a sovereign to pay taxes and readily agreed to pay taxes, much to the admiration of her countrymen. Honorable Speaker, while we mourn the passing of a great sovereign, let us also wish that her successor, King Charles III, who is also no stranger here to this country, will have the good fortune to have a memorable reign to match that of his mother. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Musharraf.
Honorable Speaker, I am profoundly honored to speak on this condolence motion about the passing of Her Highness Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I was deeply saddened by the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. Her sense of duty and service to the UK and the Commonwealth is a remarkable example for the world as a whole. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the UK, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. This is a painful period of mourning for nations around the world. Over her 7 remarkable decades on the throne, the Queen consistently proved herself to be a powerful leader on the world stage as she was an effective guiding hand to the British government behind the scenes. As head of the Commonwealth, her duty, dedication and service marked the life of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, a life that demands our greatest respect and thus embodies the values we aim to stand for. Her legacy is enduring and her service to people is inspiring. Her determination and tenacity are an inspiration for many people around the world. Her legacy will dominate large in the history and story of our world. Honorable Speaker, Her Majesty the Queen was not only a huge inspiration to many, but she was also a mother, wife and grandmother like many other women. She paved the way for the masses with her charitable work, fashion, statements and army service. She traveled the globe on state and leisurely visit and thereby connected to the world everyone, even indigenous people knew her name. Her love didn't stop at individuals and people alike, but extend to animals as well, such as her corgis, horses and swans. No one can or will ever replace the Queen. She has touched many hearts and joined the world as one. In 1954, just 5 months after her coronation, Queen Elizabeth II engaged in a royal visit to Sri Lanka. This was the first visit to Sri Lanka by reigning monarch. The 10-day tour included a royal procession through Colombo, where she opened the first session of the Second Parliament of Sri Lanka, then Ceylon, a train ride to Kandy and tours of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa and Nuwara. Her Majesty Queen visited again in 1981 to witness the construction of the Victoria Dam, Sri Lanka's largest hydroelectric project. Her Majesty issued a public message on the 17th anniversary of Sri Lanka's independence stating, "The relationship between our two countries has continued to grow over the years, and I hope that the connection between our people connection to flourish in the years to come." Honorable Speaker, on her 21st birthday, then Princess Elizabeth back in 1947 said, "My whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service." For 75 years, Queen Elizabeth more than fulfilled that vow. She performed her duties with commitment, wisdom, and a profound sense of service. She set a tremendous example for all of us. Whilst I respectfully remember the life of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II and feel sorrow to her departure, I send my warmest wishes to King Charles III on his accession to the throne of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. The dedication and commitment of the King to young people and the common good is well known and has had a significant influence across the world. I wish His Majesty good health and strength throughout his reign. I am concluding my remarks with an excerpt from Her Majesty's 2008 Christmas broadcast. "When life seems hard, the courageous do not lie down and accept defeat. Instead, they are all the more determined to struggle for a better future." Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Rajapaksa.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Today that I am thankful to Honorable Speaker giving us an opportunity to express our condolences to His Majesty the King Charles III and the members of the royal family as well as the citizens of United Kingdom. Honorable President, on behalf of our nation, paid the last respect to Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II at Buckingham Palace. In addition to that, all the political party leaders in this House have expressed their condolences. Late Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, after she was enthroned in February 1952, one of her first overseas visits was to Sri Lanka. That was in 1954, April. Queen Elizabeth II was a legendary. I don't think that there had been any king or queen who had held that position for a period of 70 long years in the history. I am happy to note, Honorable Speaker, when I met Her Majesty in February 2015, when I attended to the conference of the Justice Ministers' Conference of the Commonwealth countries, and she expressed that her memory of her visit to Sri Lanka in 1954. And I also was rather surprised that she had such a long memory, whereas Her Majesty explained as to how she went to Sigiriya and Dalada Malikawa in Kandy. If one follows the life of Her Majesty, we have to learn a lot. We can learn a lot. There is a nice series of episodes in Netflix that The Crown. I think there are over 14 to 15 episodes, whereas one can understand and comprehend what kind of challenges that she had taken, especially during the period where there was a conflict on Suez Canal, where the British was involved, and how prudently she, as the head of the Commonwealth countries and also head of the United Kingdom, she handled all the issues and smoothly resolved. His Majesty the King Charles III, we can remember he visited for our 50th Independence Day in 1998, and he visited our museum. After the visit of the museum, that he admired the way that we have preserved our historical monuments. To Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, until her demise, they remained as the head of Commonwealth countries, whereas that there are 14 countries in the status of dominion, recognizing the Queen as head of their countries. Now her demise, of course, is a great loss to the United Kingdom as well as to the world. During her period, there had been 15 prime ministers who served in the United Kingdom, and during the entire period, that's the United Kingdom had prospered under the leadership of Her Majesty. Therefore, as a nation, we all together convey our condolences to His Majesty the King Charles III and the members of the royal family, and also to the citizens of United Kingdom. By extension, it includes the Commonwealth countries which had recognized the Queen as their head. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Mayantari Sanai.
Honorable Speaker, on behalf of the Gamisanaka family, we join many Sri Lankans in mourning the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I recall Her Majesty's visit to Sri Lanka in 1981. My late father was the minister in attendance. I was a small boy and didn't have the good fortune of meeting Her Majesty. However, the opening of the Victoria project under the Accelerated Mahavali Development Program was a historic event that is etched in the hearts and minds of the Sri Lankan people. I recall how thousands of people waving mini Sri Lankan and British flags stood for hours just to catch a glimpse of Her Majesty as her motorcade passed by. People of this country greatly appreciate her active support for the Accelerated Mahavali project. This House joins millions of people across the world in paying tribute to a much loved and respected monarch. My deepest sympathies and condolences to the royal family. May her gracious soul rest in peace. Thank you.
Honorable Niroshan Pera.
Honorable Speaker, I wish to express my condolences to the royal family at the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I was extremely sad to hear the sudden news of the Queen's departure after hearing concerns for her failing health earlier in the day. Like many, I have known of the Queen all my life, and I have admired her lifelong sacred duty, reassuring presence, unfailing commitment, and selfless service to the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth of Nations. I will always keep fond memories of royal celebrations, as well as watching on television her marvelous arrival at the 2012 Olympic opening ceremony in London, and her brilliant and entertaining tea party with Paddington Bear for the Platinum Jubilee. I was specially looking forward to the celebration of the Queen's 100th birthday and was hoping that would have been possible. I am sad that she will not reach this historic milestone in actual life. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth always had a special relationship with Sri Lanka. In 1954, just 5 months after her coronation, Queen Elizabeth engaged in a royal visit to Sri Lanka. This was first visit to Sri Lanka by a reigning monarch. She was accompanied by her husband, Prince Philip, the Duke of Edinburgh. The 10-day tour included a royal visit to Colombo, where she opened the first session of the Second Parliament of Ceylon, a train ride to Kandy, and tours of Anuradhapura, Polonnaruwa, and Nuvareli. They visited again in 1981 to witness the construction of the Victoria Dam, Sri Lanka's largest hydroelectric project, built under the presidency of J.R. Jayawardena by a UK firm. I will continue to remember the Queen for her devotion to duty, love for her family and people, her beauty and winning smile, her stylish attire, her graceful and dignified manner, her passion for her horses and corgis, her understanding, care and patience, hard work, leadership, and her fantastic sense of humor. I will personally miss Her Majesty, the Queen, immensely and continue to hold her in high esteem and will always think of her with deep affection. And I believe that she has thoroughly done her duty and was ready to join her husband, His Royal Highness Prince Philip. Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth has been amazing examples to us all. Throughout her whole life, faithfully honoring her pledge to devote herself to the service of her people. I would like to pass on my deepest respect and condolences to King Charles III and the whole royal family at this sorrowful time. We give our grateful and heartfelt thanks for a faithful and devoted life of 70 years of dutiful and loyal service as a record-breaking monarch and over 96 years well lived. Thank you very much, Your Majesty. We are very lucky to have your memory with us. God bless Her Majesty the Queen. May her soul rest in peace.
Honorable Ishaq Rahman. Honorable Manjula Disanaike.
Garu Katanaike.
Honorable Speaker, Queen Elizabeth, who was the head of the country where the sun never set, I'm happy to get the opportunity to speak a few words on the time we express our condolences on the demise of Her Majesty the Queen. The saying that the hand that the cradle is capable of even reigning the world has been made a reality because of Her Majesty the Queen. She was a very powerful leader and she spread her powers all over the world, and her contribution, I think, is really a great pride for the entire womenkind of the world, and we consider it as really great. And she also played the role of a mother and grandmother, and she showed to the world how she could play the role of the mother and grandmother. And I would like to place her role as mother and grandmother in high esteem, and she succeeded in continuing her reign without having any single black mark on her earl. So she was the strongest mother of the nation, and while being the queen, she had the courage to continue her role, and according to the religion we follow, I would like to say that she will have the supreme bliss of Nibbana, and I would like to express to the family members of the royal family the condolence of all women. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today we are remembering the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, Elizabeth II, Her Majesty Elizabeth, and she was the leader of the UK as well as the Commonwealth. Britain has a democratic tradition, and during her reign she ensured that democracy reigned supreme Tamil and Sinhalese who left this country because of war to Britain, she welcomed them with open arms and gave them equal opportunity and equal rights. And this is the situation in Britain. Our people who settled there and they demanded their right to be recognized, and this struggle were not suppressed, and our people agitated demanding their rights. And when these struggles took place, Britain did not suppress their legitimate struggle, and I would like to point this out in this house because democratic tradition means an important thing, and they upheld this tradition. In line with this, the demise of Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth is a great loss, and we are still find it difficult to digest her loss. As the leader of the Commonwealth nation, and all this nation accepted her as their leader, and people mourn and pay their homage to the Queen, thinking as her one of their own. And this was evident when her funeral took place. She upheld the democratic tradition, and she skillfully ruled this Commonwealth nation. At this juncture, on behalf of my people, on behalf of the TNA, I express my deepest sympathies and also the British High Commissioner, and I extend my condolence to him and thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable Ishaq Rahman, in approving the condolence motion made by both sides of the Parliament of Sri Lanka on the passing away of the world's most respected Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, I would also like to add my own sentiments to those who expressed by them. Thank you very much.
The motion before the House is there.
Yeah. Motion is before the House. I have it. Now in parliamentary
vote of condolence number 2 of the 9th Parliament. Honorable Amerikirti Athukorala, Honorable KPS Kumarasiri, Honorable Speaker, today
බොහොම ගෞරවාන්විතව ජීවත් වෙච්ච අමරකීර්ති ශෝක යෝජනාව ගන්න වෙලාවේ
when the condolence motion of Honorable Amarakirti Athukorala is taken up, Mrs. As the beloved son of Mrs. Kannavati Atukorala and Dompi Atukorala. And after born in the Kegol Blitz Hospital back in 1964, he was a very obedient child to the parents. He received his primary education from the Alutgama Central College, and he studied his A-levels at Cultural College, and he was the youngest child of the family, and for so many years he has served in the public service from 93 to 2006 as one of the manager of warehouses of the cooperative department. He also served as the Secretary of Parliamentary Affairs of then parliamentarian Mr. Kumarsari, and furthermore in 2012 he won the North Central Provincial Council elections, and then he was elected as a parliamentarian. When he represented the North Central Provincial Council, he served as a member of the North Central Provincial Council for 5 years. He was very much committed to develop Polonnaruwa district, but not only in Polonnaruwa district, the entire North Central province. If there was an issue at Anuradhapura district, it can be the Development Coordinating Committee or the North Central Provincial Development Committee. He raised the issue without any fear. Honourable Speaker, you are very much aware he carried out his service in a silent but a respectable manner. He had a good wife and had a good child. Furthermore, not only in the provincial council but also in the in his as a parliamentarian, as well as in his professional life, at every institution he served, he was an ethical person. Unfortunately, on 1st of May, I beg your pardon, 9th of May, he passed away. The death of Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala, late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala, was not the death anyone expected. He worked very closely with us. When 10 of us were together, I believe if he had if he was with us at that time, I believe he would have still been alive. But you can never predict what will happen in life. But he was a member, very important member to this house, and his demise was an unexpected one. So when we take up this condolence motion on Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala, late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala, I would like to convey the condolence of the North Central Provincial Council and the people of Anuradhapura and Polana districts to his wife, to his beloved child and his relatives. And with that I would like to wrap up. Thank you very much. Honorable Vijayadas Rajapaksa. Honorable Speaker, thank you very much. Honorable Amarakirti Atukorala was brutally killed while on his way, and we are utterly shocked from over his demise, sudden demise, and the entire world is waiting. When will the justice would be served to him? We have seen such incidents in the past as well. I can recall back in 1987, in July, Late Honorable Jinadasa Veerasinghe, who represented Tangol district, he was also hacked to death on the road. That culture began from that incident. It prevailed for 2 decades, and it ended after we lost 60,000 lives back in 1992. Although the environment was not similar to that, when there was a peaceful demonstration taking place, but due to a group that had vested interests, they created a string of a wave of crimes and killed several members and set on fire to houses of MPs. They even attacked to the properties of the innocent villagers. This is a very serious matter, and this is also a great threat to the existence of democracy. So as parliamentarians and people's representatives, we have an enormous responsibility to prevent reoccurrence of such incidents, such tendency. There can be various shortcomings, lapses on the part of parliamentarians, but the rule of law is prevailing in the country according to the Constitution, and every citizen is bound to act according to the law.
Speaker will take the chair now.
Honourable Minister, Honourable Deputy Speaker, if we do not abide by the law, and if we spread violence and commit such acts, then the country would be in anarchy. We hope to take stern legal action against those who are responsible, and all of us are saddened with the sudden demise of Honorable Amarakirti Atukorala, and I would like to convey my condolences to the children, to the relatives, to the wife of late Honorable Amarakirti Atukorala. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Honorable Diana Gamage. Honorable Sumit Tudukumbura. Honorable Deputy Speaker, today we mourn the demise of Queen Elizabeth II, and first of all I would like to convey my condolences over the death of Queen Elizabeth II. And I would like to express my views with regard to the condolence motion of the demise of late Honorable Amakirti Atukorala, and I would like to convey my condolences to his family. The death of late Honorable Amakirti Atukorala was not a natural death. Honorable Deputy Speaker, it was a killing carried out by a group of murderers, a very well planned murder. I strongly believe that the Janata Vimukti Paramana and the progressive left front, they should be held responsible over the death of Honorable Amakirti Atukorala. They are the ones who led these wave of crime. They utilized this Aragalaya to spread brutality. They instigated the people to carry out such violent acts. Therefore, irrespective of what the JVP members say in this house, what began on 9th of May was the actions or their practice that they followed back in 1988 and 1989, where they spread the violence. They created huge destruction by killing 60,000 youth of this country, and they used and instigated the people who were suffering at that time to carry out these violent acts, and created an anarchy in this country. They also set fire to number of properties and vehicles. They tried to gain power through those actions. I would like to thank Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, the President, for taking bold decisions to ensure that democracy prevails. Late Honorable Amakirti Atukorala was a very down-to-earth person. He was keen to serve the public, and representing the Parliament was considered as a sin. The JVP and the leftist progressive front were the ones who instigated people to carry out such violent acts. While hoping that he will attain in nirvana, I would like to convey my condolences to his family. Honorable Mahindanand Algamaki, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I believe the most humble parliamentarian out of this 225 parliamentarians was late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala, and today we are conveying our condolences over his demise. I personally believe that late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala, who was born in a farm zone at Polonnaruwa, he was a member who engaged in politics for 2 decades. When we were defeated in 2015, he gave leadership to Polonnaruwa district, and he supported the Mahinda Sulanka campaign to regain power. He entered into politics as the secretary of then parliamentarian Mr. Surayarachi, and he represented the Provincial Council on 3 occasions, and he won the recent general election and entered the parliament. He served in this parliament as the people's representative for 2.5 years, and during that tenure he raised his voice for the betterment of farmers of Polonnaruwa district. He also raised his voice on behalf of the people, the farmers in Hambantota district, and he always stood by with the farmer community of Polonnaruwa district, even at group meetings. When we look at the parliamentarians, we see arrogant characters and very humble persons. But I personally believe that late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorala was the most humble person who did not do anything wrong, even from his even when he speaks. Honorable Deputy Speaker, his demise, which took place on 9th of May, created a gloomy experience in the history of Sri Lanka. If you look at how he was killed, the brutality was clearly displayed on social media. He was killed. His killing cannot be compared with the killing of an animal. He was running throughout the town, and he hid in a shop, and he was attacked in a shop, and his body was dragged along the way, and even his body was attacked. Who was behind this attack? We are not justifying the attack that was carried out earlier in Goldface. The Janata Emti Paramuna and the leftist progressive front. They instigated this wave of crime that attacked the houses of parliamentarians, the Pradesh Sabha members, the buses that were carrying the supporters. Not only that, we saw the persons were attacked and was thrown into the Bere Lake. But on Late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorla, I don't know whether he suffered this fate because of some sin he committed on his previous birth. But we strongly condemn this brutal killing. This can happen to me and to anyone else tomorrow. This dirty politics, when you can't win an election, you try to gain power over a killing or by spreading violence. The security forces had received information about such incidents that they would take place on 11th of May. However, the Triforces should also be held responsible for these incidents. They were unable to control the incidents that took place on 9th of May. The IGP, the then Army Commander, should be held responsible. They did not perform their duties properly. If the government is inefficient and do not serve the public, then you have options to how to show your protest without killing persons and damaging properties. The loss of a humble politician and a leader like late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorla is a great loss to this house. I had the privilege of working with him as a close friend for 2.5 years. He had visited my house on several occasions, and we have attended several functions. He never spoke loudly, and he did not hurt anyone, even from his words. I believe he set examples to all the parliamentarians as well as to this country. That was the caliber of that such person that we lost. The innocent and the humble friend, the politician. His loss is a great loss to this house and this country, and I hope that he will attain in Nirvana. Thank you very much, Honorable Pulmahinda Rajapaksa. Honorable Deputy Speaker, today is a very important day. We conveyed our condolences over the demise of Queen Elizabeth II, and I would like to express my condolences as well. Honorable Deputy Speaker, when we are taking up the condolence motion on late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorla, I recall him as a good friend. He had represented the Provincial Council on several occasions, and he was ready to expand his service as a parliamentarian. Honorable Deputy Speaker, I have a separate interpretation about that killing. The incident took place at the Attanagal electorate. back in 253, 266, then king was Gotabaya as well. A priest was killed at that time. The Nittambu area is famous in the ancient times that the area was popular or famous as the place where the wife of King Sirisangabo, the body of wife of King Sirisangabo was found, the headless body. Similarly, Honorable Amarkiri Tatukorla, late Honorable Amarkiri Tatukorla was killed in the same place after coming from Polonnaru area, and this death is very unbearable. He was a very innocent and humble parliamentarian. He was always keen to address the requirements of the farmers, to provide them fuel, to provide them fertilizer, to provide water to them, and in order to construct irrigational projects. If he was among the living, I strongly believe that he would raise his voice with regard to the paddy purchasing as well. And even day prior to his killing, I was at Somavati temple, and he told me that he had spoken to the chief incumbent of Somavati temple. We cannot define that all the parliamentarians are good parliamentarians, but late Honorable Amarkiri Tatukorla was a good politician, a beloved husband, a beloved father. If the protesters who were at Golface were attacked and was done, if they were met with some injustice, then we could have taken measures in a proper manner, democratic manner, without carrying out such killings. Three persons were killed at the incident. The parliamentarian was killed, his bodyguard was killed, and one of the protesters was also killed. And as I told earlier, I don't want to entirely blame the protesters. They were also facing immense hardships. There was a scarcity of fuel, and they were unable to send their children to school. That was an Aragale, a movement that was led with the true involvement of the public, but we cannot justify engaging in protests using weapons and carrying out killings.
Several people, not only to Nittamur, from all the areas, people have gathered there, and they have been motivated. Their anger has been triggered by someone, but none of them have been arrested up to now. But currently there are 25 to 30 people, those who have been arrested. It is said that they are the people who got involved in this murder, but maybe they have got involved in this murder because of someone else's kind of motivation made on this massacre. Not only him, another person who involved with this struggle was also murdered. But this should not be the real struggle or the Aragalaya movement. And now today these people's loved ones' suffering is immeasurable at the moment. And to quit these queues for fuel and gas and to send our children to schools, we could have done this struggle or the Aragalaya movement in a rather better manner. That Aragalaya was initiated and the member was assaulted. We noticed that, and to save him, the member, from that murder, his guard shot at one of the protesters. But in such a backdrop, no security was given or provided to that place. If they acted or if they were activated, the forces were activated, they should not have had happened. And after 20 minutes, this member was taken out from the place which he was hidden, and he was murdered. Our forces were very inactive in this activity, but if they acted properly, if they performed their duty very well, they shouldn't have suffered. Sometimes maybe he might have been assaulted, but not ended with such a pity situation. Even I was harmed by these people, and I was alleged by several people. And there were so many violent activities happened for our members. But we are not angry with them. An incident happened and we had to face that. And if a group has gone to the goal phase on the 9th of May, it's okay, but even those protesters should have thought of this scenario. And if our member Honorable Attukodala went there to the goal phase premises, he can't be there in Ittambu at that time. Then he has come to attend in a funeral which has happened in his area. And our reputation which we had to our Attanagalla electorate was ruined, and the people of our area got involved in these accidents somehow or the other, but all the loved ones of them are suffering today. And he was a noble member, and he was a person who should be respected, and he had that quality, and we have to condemn that murder. Therefore, Honorable Speaker, I think he committed for something that he has done in a previous soul, but we can't accept his cold-blooded murder. Therefore, I'm not going to talk for long, but there's consecutive power in our country, and the parliament is active. Having all those things and having all the power, no one has right to committing any murder or something like that in this country, we all have to obey the law of the country and our anger and our issues. Everything should be discussed and everything should be handled with an open dialogue. And that Aragali movement was finished, but at the end of the day, we had to talk about a cold-blooded murder of an innocent member. There are so many members, those who do so many unaccepted things, but he is not such a person. He is he's an ordinary member, ordinary parliament member who was murdered. And actually, I would like to express my deepest sympathies on his demise, and I wish him, as a Buddhist, and we all obey our principles of our religion. And I would like to convey all the meritorious things that I participated on his soul. And I wish his next soul be a noble one, and I wish him deepest sympathies. Honorable Jayaratna Herath, Honorable Presiding Member, today we are talking about a tragic demise of a member of our parliament. As a public representative of the provincial council and the cooperative officer, he served in those positions and then elected to this parliament, but he was murdered very brutally on the 9th of May. As all the other members said, he was totally humble and very innocent human in this parliament. He didn't do any harm to anyone, and as a friend of Polonnaruwa people, he had that interest of the people for his good things that he did for his people. This is a violent, condemned activity. This should be condemned. And after his assassination, I went to his home and I met his wife and the son, and I met all the relatives of him, and they told that he has spent a very little amount of money for his election, but he has been elected to this parliament. That is because of his friendly manner that he has acted. But at the end of the day, he had to sacrifice his life for this entire purpose. But we can't accept this, we can't admit, we can't admit such activities. Actually, when we take the history of Sri Lankan politics, starting from the mayor of Jaffna, Alfred Dorayappa and Amritalingam, we lost number of key figures, number of key Tamil figures in our country, and also as a result of the unrest triggered in the southern during the time of the Honorable President J.R. Jayawardena, Honorable Athulat Mudali and some other people were injured, and another member was killed. and died. Actually, this is a very doubtful situation, and I would like to ask whether it is correct. And there's no right to get involved in any arson attack or any assault, anything to anyone. This clearly depicts the violation and the brutality which we have within us. And Singhali's manager was assassinated in Pakistan very recently. Then we were shocked on that situation, and we used so many words in that regard, and we questioned how such assassinations can be committed. But within a very short time period of that, Honorable Attu Korala was assassinated in a very brutal manner. When talking about these things, and as a government, we have to be responsible for these things. Police has to perform their duties well, and they have to uphold this law and the peace of the country. And 69 lakhs voted to the President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, and he has a responsibility to secure the law of this country. And with all these incidents triggered, he should have ordered all the tri-forces to stop such activities. But we are doubtful of his duties also. Finally, on the 8th, at night on the 8th, there was a curfew imposed called a police curfew. Those police officers just used that opportunity, but without any law. And many organizations like UN Embassy and all the other organizations, with the intervention of all of them, that curfew imposed was also lifted out again. But if we could implement or execute those laws prior to such violent activities, we could have saved his life. Actually, we are sad about his departure and his death, and his wife and the son and all the relations have been helpless with his death. There's no one to make all the things, bring all the things back to normalcy in his family. This brutal and violent era must be ended very soon. I would like to remind all the political leaders, all those who rule this country and those who are expected to rule this country, using such activities to come to this power. I would like to address all those people. Despite of party politics, this will be a kind of a problem for all of you. Then Honorable Amarkirti Attu Korala, who was with us for a long time, and I would like to express my deepest sympathies and condolences on his demise to his family. And that gloomy period escalated from 9th of May. There were so many violent activities in this country. There were arson attacks and there were property damages. we can't admit any of those activities, and I wish him the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Thank you very much, Honorable W.D.J. Senavarat. Honorable Deputy Speaker, on the last 9th of May, shocking all of us, Honorable Amarakirti was assassinated, and actually I'm glad that I had this opportunity to speak for him, and he was there behind me when I was in the government party. He was a very calm and innocent person. Most of the time when he expected to speak in this parliament, he gave his speech to me to open my ideas and to include my ideas also in his speech. Such kind of humble person, I would like to define him as such a person. He was a very cool character, calm character, and he had a good understanding, and he was a flexible character too. Born in Kalutara area and having educated in Colombo and settled there in Polonnaruwa and got involved in this welfare activities and social activities. He has appointed as the chair of this Lions Club, and he has contributed to help all the poor people and patients and all through that Lions Club. Especially there are so many kidney persons in that area. He has contributed to help them through that same Lions Club also. And he competed in that election, and he won that provincial election, and after 10 years again he was re-elected with 26,000 votes. And in the meantime, he has served as the private secretary of the Honorable Suryarachi, and there he has been able to render a great service to the people of that area. And he was very friendly to his people. As a result of that behavior of him, he could be elected to this parliament from the Polonnaruwa district. He had this understanding that all these achievements and all being elected as this parliamentary member of the parliament has been a result of being friendly and being committed towards his people. And his party requested him to come to Colombo on the 9th May, and following that request he came to Colombo. But after that meeting, he has wanted to go home, but he didn't go for any violent activity. This Aragalaya movement can be justified up to some extent, but at that time people had a lot of issues with shortages of fuel and diesel, petrol and gas and all, and with this rising level of cost of living. And therefore people stormed together and they initiated these protest movements. And there were so many intentions of these people, and there were some justified reasons, and some wanted to put the government in hot water, and some wanted to have some political mileages through this. And also some people who got involved in this Aragalaya movement made this a business, and they collected so many funds from so many sources, and now they have deposited that money in their accounts. The Aragalaya movement initiated to letting know the government that about their burdens and pressures. This Aragalaya was initiated, but this Honorable Amarakirti didn't participate in any violent activity in that regard. Then he wanted to go to Polonnaru, and he started going on. And then in the middle of that journey, he has been brutally assaulted, and his security guard has done his duty to the best that he could do to save his life. Thereafter, they have run for sake of their security or their protection. And his guard and him, they had run to a shopping complex, and they had hidden there to save their lives. These people have gone there and taken both of them away, and they have been brutally assaulted and murdered. Actually, the security forces of this country should be responsible for that. They could have upheld the rule of the law in this country, and they were so inactive. This is a result of that inactivity. Actually, I got to know that when that member was taken out and when he was assaulted, there had been a police officer also, but he hadn't got involved in saving his life also. Honorable Deputy Speaker, the other thing is that, and when investigations were going on in this regard, the act of some officers is very doubtful. And one member expressed something related to his murder when he appeared for these investigations. And those officials, those who got involved in these investigations, have been pressurized in the court, and there had not been reasonable investigation conducted. And I believe that this Court Service Commission should consider such activities. Otherwise, this country will be a country full of worst experiences like this. And as lawyers, we respect that precision. Sometimes we charge for some cases, and some cases are there that we don't take any charge. For an extremely poor person or for a very helpless person, we haven't charged, but we have represented them. We as lawyers, we go to the court complex with an utmost respect. We can't act there according to our whims and our personal wills. When those who committed for these activities, these violent activities, were arrested and when they were produced before the courts. Actually, some lawyers in the court, some judges even, they have not acted to grant them bail, because there had been 10-15 lawyers for those people, and even those lawyers had not been aware of the accusation of them. And even those lawyers got intimidated, got afraid of any harmful activity for their properties also. And some lawyers have acted in a bad manner, an unacceptable manner. And during this time, the law was breached. Actually, we debated for several days about the demise of the Honorable Kirti Attukodala. We are so sad of his death, and we expect that these investigations would be ended very soon, and the justice be delivered for this assassination. We can remember the incident took place in Pakistan, and there was very expeditious investigation process there, and those who were responsible were charged within a very short time period. And there was another assassination also. But all those investigation processes were very, very quick. Such situation should be there in our country also. Some communities in the court, some prosecutors are given some concessions in these days. And actually we have to take necessary steps for those who have been responsible for this assassination, and we have to establish a trial at bar to investigate this assassination. This is a serious matter, and such a serious manner should be investigated before such a bar, trial at bar. I request it from you, Honorable Speaker. Please discuss with the Attorney General about this matter, about the investigating process of this. And when therefore, it's better to discuss this matter with the Attorney General, and therefore I would like to request that from you, Honorable Speaker, and also I would like to request to take expeditious steps in this regard, and I would like to express my deepest sympathies for the assassination of those two persons. Honorable Chintakamal. Honorable Deputy Speaker, in the Polonnaruwa district, Honorable Amarikirti represented all the farmers, laborers, and he raised his voice. For sake of all of the people. During his life, he contributed in all the social welfare activities, and also he contributed in politics also. We noticed the way he acted in this parliament. We both, as the firstly elected members in this parliament, he could win all of us good hearts, and he was very innocent and humble in this parliament. He was a successful member who served in this parliament.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, during the recent past, we saw an agitation campaign called a People's Struggle. People who had enough burning issues, they found it that the struggle is the alternative to find answers to the burning issues. We don't have any hard feelings regarding the people who launched that struggle, but we oppose for the people who sit in the houses of the politicians and such destructive activities. People who created this struggle, the JVP and the Frontline Socialist Party, the political parties that have cruel experience, they thought it is very simple to take hold of life of another person. During the Honorable R. Premadasa's period, we saw even the coffins were not allowed to taken above the knee height, and we saw so many destructions and destruction of public assets during that program, and it has come to the level that former member Amarakirti Athukorla had to leave this life within about half an hour's time. He fled to a building for his life. However, he was dragged back to the roads and brutally killed on the road together with his security person, the bodyguard. There was a police. We saw the former IGP was taken into custody by the investigators of the Easter Sunday attacks. The IGP, who is responsible for the implementation of police ordinance, if IGP was summoned before the Easter Sunday Commission, why can't we summon the incumbent IGP for the negligence of his duty and the police department? Why didn't he give proper orders for his police officers? And he should take the responsibility, and the former army commandant should also take the responsibility. And luckily, the mother-in-law of the former army commandant was in the MP's residence quarters in Madibala. Otherwise, even our houses at Madibala would have been demolished. Late Honorable Amarakirti Athukorla never thought that the people would be so cruel against him. And we saw during Velapulle Prabhakaran during the war, and Damu Dasanayaka and former members Jayaraj Fernandupulle were killed on the road. And is it the same politics that we are going back for such an anarchy? Honorable Deputy Speaker, we know the IGP, and about his appointment, it is in question. There's an issue regarding his degree. I will also speak about his appointment in this house in future, and if it is IGP the highest authority in the police department, I wonder whether he has been duty conscious in the implementation of law and order of the country. Former member Amarkiti Atukorla was brutally assaulted, and he was treated with very filth on the road without having any respect for his integrity of his character and being an MP. And Honorable John Seniratna, who spoke before me, I am in total agreement with his speech, his opinion. Where is this law and order of the country? How can we have peaceful lifestyle if the law and order is so degraded, so harsh upon the members of parliament in such a manner that the people on the road take the lives of MPs? And even for the kerosene issue, diesel petrol issue and gas issue, there must be solutions. They should be addressed in a proper manner. But we at the same time don't entertain the way the people who stormed into the President's Palace, temple trees, Presidential Secretariat, and demolish very valuable public assets. It is the responsibility of the police to see that such things don't occur, and it is police department that should be held responsible. And we are very much in grief on the demise of our colleague and the plight of his wife and his son, and even the security person, the bodyguard, and his bereaved family must also be looked after by us. And for the parliamentarians, provincial councillors, Pradesh Sabha MPs, and their assets, their houses, and not only they were set on fire, even some assets were looted by the public, by the people, in a very illegal and unethical manner. So I take this opportunity to ask to take the IGP into custody and take him into the books. So may he attain Nibbana. I thank you. Honorable D.B. Herath. Please make your condolence message brief before the lunch break. Thank you, Honorable Deputy Speaker. We are taking this condolence motion on a very humble and innocent member who was with us in this parliament. Honorable Amarkiti Atukorla hails from the Polonnaruwa district. He is a very close friend of mine. He is a very respectable gentleman. So losing his life, his loss is a loss for the democracy, and we represent this august assembly, and it is our bounden duty to uphold the democracy. 9th of March we saw the terrorism emerged, bulldozing democracy in the country. It is in that context, in that anarchy, that we saw he lost his life. He fled for his life and was hidden in a building, and he was taken back to the roads and brutally assaulted and killed, and several houses of the politicians were set on fire, and some houses were demolished, and we couldn't imagine how and from what quarters the people were motivated to unleash that type of terror against the parliamentarians and the politicians. And the kingpin of this brutal attack is still in hiding, and our defense forces have not been able to find out the mastermind behind these brutal attacks. However, we lost our colleague. That shows the freedom of life of a citizen is at stake. So the police and the armed forces must take prompt action whenever they see such unruly mob attacks on the roads. So they have enough legitimate powers, but even that minimum force was not implemented and took hold of the situation to control and to make the situation calm and under control by the police department. A committee was appointed by the former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, Vasantha Karunagoda, the former Navy Commandant, and Prasan Gunatilaka of the Air Force, and they were in that committee. The committee gave their recommendations that, in a nutshell, that the armed forces, the defense forces have had lapses and they have not done their duty. So before giving any orders to resign, these top brass of the police and the armed forces should resign in a very ethical manner. Otherwise, this government must take the responsibility to provide security for the people and should not let the assets and properties of the members of parliament be destroyed. Therefore, the government is responsible. Government should take the responsibility to find out who were behind these attacks, and the government must be accountable for this loss of life and the other properties. So the vacuum created by the loss of Honorable Amarkirti Atukorla, another young member, came into this house. However, if we pay our tribute to this late Honorable Amarkirti Atukorla, it is our bounden duty to see that this type of brutal attacks on MPs should not be repeated. And who takes the responsibility? The defense forces, whether they are performing their duty proper, that should be looked into. And if there's any political group, political backing for this type of killings and destruction, the people must not allow such quarters to come into mainstream politics. Even in a future election, they should not be given the power to govern the country anyhow. And we must alienate such unruly antisocial people engaging in politics, and therefore we urge the intellectuals and the people of the country, the common people, when you take political decisions in future at elections, please consider these activities. May late Honorable Amarkirti Athukorla attain Nibbana. I thank you. Honorable Sridharan.
Honorable Deputy Speaker, today a vote of condolence is being taken in order to pay our last respect to Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II and late Amarkirti Athukorla, Member of Parliament. On behalf of the people, we convey our deepest condolences to the bereaved family. May his soul rest in peace. Very importantly, 2 months ago, late Honorable Athukorla, Member of Parliament from Athanagala, he was killed in a violence. We cannot accept this act. This is a very bad assassinations. In the history of this country, we have witnessed these kinds of killings. Honorable late Athukorla, he extended a yeoman service towards his people in this country. Many members mentioned in their speeches. In this country, several members of Parliament and the people have been assassinated or killed in the recent past. During the tenure of late Sarimava Bandaranaike, an assassination was carried out in this country, and later her daughter Chandrika Bandaranaike Kumaratunga, she was the president of this country. There was killing in this country. Justice should be meted out to the families, and also late Kumar Ponnambalam was assassinated in Colombo in the daylight, and also Joseph Pararajasingham, late Member of Parliament, he was assassinated in a church in Batticaloa. And also Svenation, when he was on his way back from Parliament, he was assassinated by a clamour. And also late Member of Parliament Raviraj, he was shot dead in Colombo. These members of Parliament were assassinated in this country. They should be meted out with justice. We just want to ask you whether the justice has been meted out, and also certain armed people carried out their shooting activities, and also the Vice Chancellor of the Eastern University, Ravindranath, he was kidnapped and killed. The body was not found. And also another writer from Batticaloa, he was killed and his body was found in the vicinity of this parliament. And also writer Nadeshan was killed in Batticaloa. In Jaffna, a journalist Nimala Rajan was killed in his house. Thus, and also a lecturer from the Batticaloa University, he was an economist. He was a good person. He was shot dead in the daylight.
justice has not been meted out to him. Late Athukorala's demise cannot be accepted. People who love for human dignitaries cannot accept this kind of killings. Similarly, many people carried out the assassinations and the killings in these countries, and also there was an ethnic issue, ethnic turbulence in this country. The Tamil people were set on fire, especially in Colombo, and the people were sent to the northern area without any clothes. They were wearing the clothes which cannot be changed as well. And also the Tamil and the Sinhalese people with proper understandings, they have the right to live in this country. The cultural rights and the identity of the Sinhalese people are given priority. Similarly, the culture and the traditions and the identity of the Tamils should be given. There should be a proper situation where the Tamils and the Sinhalese live together peacefully in these countries. Late Athukorala, we have heard that the spouse of the late member is psychologically affected as well. Likewise, there are many spouses in this country. They suffer a lot without their partners. Therefore, even the Tamil sisters and the brothers, they also undergo the same sufferings. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Honorable Presiding Deputy Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity given to me. The members of Parliament, they have come to this house. I had an opportunity to meet late Amarakirti Athukorala in this house. What I understood from the conversation I had with him, his political life was a holy one. When I searched for his history, he mingled with the people and he was elected by the people. He was an exemplary parliamentarian. Firstly, he was elected with 13,000 votes, majority votes, and later on he was able to win the election as well and became member of parliament. He was killed. We condemn the killings of him. The people took forward this struggle, and this particular struggle diverted into a different ways. The people who took forward the struggle in the Gulf, they took forward the struggle in a peaceful manner, but this particular struggle changed into a violence. And this struggle, through this struggle, the Honourable Member of Parliament, late Athukorala, lost his life. Now we have a school teacher who became the member of parliament in this house, his own house was burned during the violence. And also he expressed his views that he did not have a hope to live his life. Honorable Amarakirti Athukorala, late Athukorala, he mingled with the people, he served for the people, and he lost his life during the violence.
Good. The good is only temporary. The evil it does it permanent என்று சொன்னார். அதாவது
if we start a violence, some people think that it is a good things, but that is temporary. But violence is always bring a bad repercussions. So the main ninth struggle is an example, and a precious life of late Athukorala lost. It is apparent that Honorable Amarakirti Athukorala lost his lives, precious lives. Now, the people have frustrated due to the loss of his precious life as well. A struggle started to find solutions, but it changed into violence, and precious lives were lost. This kind of struggle will defeat the democratic struggle. As a result of this struggle, the people attempted to express their views. This house should be given a pressure to form new regulations, new acts. But this the protesters have failed to form new acts. They have failed to give pressure to this house. A proper and the right constitution should be made. These protesters should have given pressure to make this kind of new constitutions. But at the same time, these protesters have chased away the former president. But a good protest changed into a bad one. Thus, we condemned the assassination of late Amarakirti Athukorala, and we send our deepest condolences to the bereaved family members of late Athukorala. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honorable Tharaka Balasuriya, Honorable Deputy Speaker, I express my condolence on the demise of late Honorable Amarakirti Athukorala to his bereaved family members, his wife and his son. We wholeheartedly agreeable with the fact that he had been the most innocent MP of us all, and we also condemned the violence which is almost an inherent part of our mainstream politics. When we analyze this type of an assassination, it is our bounden duty to see that the repetition should not be allowed to occur. We also could identify there was a mob to kill MPs and to demolish and set the houses on fire of the MPs. Other than the assassination of an particular MP, it was a total loss for the democratic norms of the country. Some campaigners tried to even House will resume. Even the agitators who was organizing this struggle campaign, they tried to stormed into Parliament. They wanted to surround the Parliament, and we have not taken any action against such mob or the people who are responsible for such a destruction, and the people who have killed this MP must also be taken before the book.
I want to say a word or two about the demise of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II. I am a Republican, of course, but irrespective of the fact that I am a Republican, we have to acknowledge the fact that the Queen Elizabeth II was the head of Sri Lanka from her coronation in 1952 until we came up with the Republican Constitution. I would think that whenever we talk of royals, with no disrespect to the other countries, in true nature we only refer to one royal family, that is the British royal family. And we can see why, because she had been the sovereign, she has been the head of state of 32 sovereign countries. When she was coronated, she became, there were 6 countries along with Sri Lanka where she became the head of the state. And I just Googled some facts, and it's absolutely amazing the role which she has played. And during the 73 years of her reign, she did it with such grace and such dignity. She has served over 170 MPs under her, so in the Commonwealth countries. So if anything which we are to take by the life and the reign of Queen Elizabeth II, it's the manner how she conducted and brought that when a lot of attention was brought upon the royal family, how she acted with dignity, and it can all be admired. So at this juncture, we would like to express our sympathy with the British royal family and also with the people of England and the Commonwealth. Thank you.
බොහොම ස්තුතියි ගරු මහත්මනි. මීළඟට ගරු සුදර්ශන දෙනිපිටිය කර්මන්ට. ගරු දෙනිපිටි honorable deputy speaker. The 9th of May was a day that we all got shocked. Honorable Amarakirti Attukorala, one of the humblest members of parliament, was brutally assassinated. He was assassinated, and then his wife lost a loving husband, his son lost a loving and caring father. We can only hope for Nibbana for him. That's the only thing that we can do after his demise. We saw this type of brutality in 1988 and 89 too. But this person who has done such a yeoman service to the Polonnaru area didn't really have any valid reason or any fair reason to be assassinated in that brutal manner. That came as a shock to everybody of us. It still worries all of us. It took many hours after his death for the body to be taken. I think he had to go there to that place, to that fateful place, because he didn't get the message properly. Actually, he went there because of the love for the people. He had a number of funerals to attend, and that is why he went faster than usual, because he wanted to attend those funerals. He was a great person, an honorable person, a sincere person. So no one can actually justify such brutalities. There are so many people who have become victims of that fateful day. There were people who provoked such violence, but those who provoked such violence are just safe today. And those who were at the forefront of violence are behind bars. They are not in a position to do their jobs, and they have to go to they spend their valuable time in courts. But the people who provoked them are scot-free. With that provoking, many ugly things happened. We never expected a thing like this to happen. We should find out the reason for this. I request the Honorable President to investigate everything that led to this attack. We must ensure that this kind of incidents wouldn't recur in this country. The then President was also defense free. Our security forces couldn't even provide security to the first person of the country. How did it happen? He was a war veteran who brought an end to terrorism. So such a person fell prey to a few gangsters. The bodies of Honorable Athukoral and his bodyguard were there at that spot till 2 a.m. I'm an ex-serviceman, and at the war front, if a soldier fell dead, then we would take him out of that place within a very short period of time. But here, a number of hours were lost, a number of hours were spent to take the body out. Our security forces could not provide security to our president. These things must be investigated. The people who provoked such things, the people who supported such things must be brought before the book. Otherwise we will not be able to see an end to this kind of incidents. We will once again see this kind of things emerging. In 1988 and 89 we saw in our own eyes the brutality. There was homicide, lootings, damages to property, and so on and so forth. And we thought that such a situation wouldn't re-emerge in this civilized society. The young people of this country, the young generation, does not know about the brutality that was there in this country in 88 and 99 period. Maybe some of the components of the Aragalaya are fair and true, but this is not the method to adopt. We can't revisit the 88-89 period. There were demonstrations, rallies everywhere, and there were instances when the security forces personnel had to fire. In Matale too, an incident like that happened. two persons, two brothers, one captain, and their mother was put to the forefront, and then there was a shooting, and the mother of those soldiers died. Even the body was not given. Then the two sons went and removed all their medals and asked for the body of their mother. We passed such dark era, and once again we were about to see an emergence of a similar situation, but luckily that just went away. We know that economically we are faced with a very grave situation. I think this is not something that happened overnight. All the people who ruled this country for 70 years, as well as the officials, are responsible for this catastrophic situation. People are finding it difficult to make their ends meet, but just because of those things we cannot provoke people to come to streets and take weapons, take arms and be violent. Such things will lead to more and more complications, more and more difficulties. Some of the weapons were makeshift weapons. Certain parts of vehicles had been used to attack people. They had not just made it on that particular day. There has been a plan. So it was a planned attack, a planned insurgents. Honorable Amarkirti Attukoral and the sergeant who was providing security to him died because of the brutality of those people who were there. We can only hope Nibbana for Honorable Amarkirti and the sergeant who was with him. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Honorable Vijita Berugoda, Honorable Presiding Member, the former Member of Parliament, Honorable Amarkirti Attukoral, Amarkirti Attukoral's condolence motion is taken up in this House today. Amarkirti Attukoral died a brutal death. He was a very good friend of us. I want to hope for Nibbana for him, and I also want to express my condolence to his wife and the family members. Honorable Amarkirti Attukoral came to this parliament from the 2020 general election on the SLPP ticket, and since that day we have been good friends. He was a very simple man, a sincere person, and he had a passion and a great desire to serve his area. And he always worked with officials and other fellow politicians in a very friendly manner. Once I went to attend a meeting of the Bhikshu Balamandali in Polonnaruwa, and he was very supportive. And when we were having that meeting, I saw how close he was to the Mahasangha of the area. He was mingling with the ordinary people of the area there. He was a sincere person, an honest man. He had as I said earlier, he had a desire to serve his area, the Polonnaruwa district. And he's an unblemished man, a man with a meticulous character. But he was brutally killed in Nitambur. He and his security personnel were very brutally and violently assassinated. Ours is a country that gives its pride of place to religion, and our religion gives prominence to non-violence and peace. So this kind of incidents that are not in compliance with such pristine principles are despised or condemned by the entire society. And on the 9th of May, he was traveling to his area when he met with this tragedy. In this socio-economic and political crisis, there is a lot of pressure on the people. So it's quite natural for the people to take to streets and protest, demanding solutions to their problems. They were there to win their rights. But there were so many protesters who did not actually uphold violence. But among them, there were some people with various ulterior political motives who unleashed violence at that protest, and with that they wanted to create havoc in the society. And it is because of a handful of such people that lootings took place, destruction of public property took place, and killings of people took place. It was a social tragedy. There were 2 attacks on my place also. I think the law was helpless at that time. The police and the law enforcement authorities were helpless, and they could not resist the violence that was coming up from the so-called protesters. We can regain our property, but we cannot inject life to a lost individual. So Amarkirti Athukorala's death is a deadly blow to democracy. And for those people who love democracy and peace, it was a slap on their face. He had a lot of respect in his people, and he always worked for social progression. So we know that Mrs. Athukorala is shocked, and his child is so shocked, and the vacuum created by the death of his father cannot be filled by anything. But now that it has happened, Honorable Athukorala had to die on a voyage to a pristine purpose. And I think Honorable Mrs. Sathukorala is working hard to fill the gap created by the death of Mr. Sathukorala. I hope that he will not fall prey to such violent activities in his future births. Thank you. And Her Majesty the Queen Elizabeth II, who was the Chief of the Commonwealth, died recently at the age of 96. The Honorable President of this country attended the funeral of Her Majesty the Queen. So I want to convey our condolences to the UK, British Prime Minister and the people of Britain. The condolence of motion of or the condolence votes of all members of Parliament on the demise of Honorable Sathukorala will be sent to his family, and I request the Secretary General of Parliament to send the copies of Hansards of these condolence motions to their family. Item number 2, Honorable Chief Government Chief Whip. I move item number 1 of the agenda. House agrees? Yes. Adjournment. I move that the House be adjourned till 9:30 a.m. on the 3rd of October, Monday. House is adjourned till 3rd of October 2022.